In this lesson, we're going to take a look at another advanced configuration option for views, relationships. Relationships are primarily used to include information that is related to an entity being displayed, but not actually from the entity being displayed. An obvious practical reason when you might need to use relationships on a view would be if you have a view of a bunch of articles where you're displaying the entire article, and under each article you want to add an About the Author byline. In the instance here in this site that we're demoing, we're going to include a photo of the recipe's author on the recipe listing in the view. So if we take a look at this listing of recipes here, right now all we have is the title, the teaser, and then a read more link. And if we click through to one of these, we can take a look at what content exists on this particular entity. We have the food sensitivities taxonomy listing, we have ingredients, and then we have the directions for the recipe. The author information is a separate entity and is not part of this particular entity itself. The only thing that this entity contains in relation to an author is who the author is. There's no other information retained in the entity itself about the author. And that information can be found if we edit this particular entity, go to authoring information, and then we can see which user is the author of this particular entity. So back to our view here of recipes. What we want to do is clean up this view a little bit and then include the photo of the author in each listing. So we're going to go ahead and do this now. I could click on the contextual link here and then click Edit View, or I could go under Manage, Structure, Views, and find this view. But I already have this view open in another tab, so I'm just going to flip over to that. The first thing that we're going to do is change the way that this view displays a little bit. Rather than displaying just the teaser for the recipe, which we're seeing right now, we're going to choose some fields that will make this a little bit more useful. So I'm going to change the format from Show Content to Fields, apply to this display, and I can leave everything else the same. I'll apply that. Now if I scroll down, the only thing that's being shown of each recipe is the title, because the title is the field that's in here. I'm going to change the title to show, I'm going to customize the field HTML here to show as an H2. I'll apply that. Now those are H2s. I'll bring back in the recipe description, which is actually the body field. And in this case, all I want to show under the formatter is summary or trimmed. And I'm actually going to limit it to 200 characters to keep it nice and short. I'm going to rewrite the results to strip any HTML tags so that it stays nice and clean. I'll keep BR tags and paragraph tags, and then go ahead and apply this. The other thing that I want to add are the food sensitivities tags that might be on the recipe. And I'll create a label so that it says what it is that's being shown. And apply. Okay, now we can scroll down to the preview here and see a much nicer display that makes more sense for these recipes. Now what I want to add is the picture from the user that added the recipe. Let's go ahead and save this view, and then we'll come back to it. I'm going to scroll down here to save. And now we can see this looking more the way that we set it up to look. I did not include the read more link. I would need to add that if I wanted to, but we're not going to worry about that right now. What we're really interested in is getting the photo of the author of the recipe in here. So we'll go back to Edit the View. And now under Fields, let's see what we can add in relation to the author of the node. So I'm going to do a quick search here for user, and we'll see that the options that I have here are comment statistics, so the last user who created a comment, an add comment link so that users can add comments, who authored the content, and who did the last revision of the content. But none of these fields are for the photo of the user, and that's what I'm interested in. And I just want to quickly show you the two users that we have. We only have two users on this site right now so that you can see their photos. So user 1, TC4A, is using the Druplicon for its photo, and user Rain is using a photo, this is me, is using a photo of me. Coming back here, let me see if I can search for something that says photo. Okay, so there's a photo credit field that's in our article, but that's not what we're interested in. And we can search for picture, nothing shows up. And we may also want to search for image. There's the image field, which appears in article and event. None of these are going to help us. So clearly the field that we're trying to show here isn't available under the fields list right now. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. And this is where I need to add a relationship. What I need this particular display to do is to go out and find out information about the author of the node for the listing of each node. So under advanced here, I'm going to add a relationship. And that relationship is going to be to the author of the node. So I'll click add, and then here I'll search for author, looking for content author. Then I'll apply this to all displays. I can change the title of this relationship if I have multiple relationships on a particular view display. I might need to give them titles that are meaningful to me. Author makes sense as the title of this relationship, so I'm going to leave this alone. I can also require this relationship. What that means is that anything that's going to display in the view results must actually have this relationship to something else. Every node will have an author, so we don't necessarily need to require this relationship because it'll have an author regardless. But if you have events, for example, that reference recipes, and you only want your view to display events that are related to a recipe, then you could require this relationship. I'm going to go ahead and apply this. I'm going to reopen Advanced so that you can now see that under relationships, there's the author relationship, which we could edit. We could add more relationships if we want to, but this is the only one that we need right now. Now I'm going to go back to fields and see what I can add in relation to the author. I'm going to search for user because what I'm interested in is something about the user itself. And I'm going to scroll down here and see what I've got. I have user email. I have the last time the user logged in. I can link to the user. I can find out the user's language. I can find out the user's name. And here it is down here, user picture. So this is the one that I'm interested in. This is now available to me because I have the author relationship. So all of this data is available for the listing in this view. So I'll go ahead and check that off and apply to all displays. The first option here in these settings is to choose the relationship that is going to pull this picture into the entity listed. In this case, we only have one relationship, which is author. But if we also had a relationship to the user that last commented on the recipe, then we may be able to choose that as well. Since this is an image, we can choose an image style. I'm going to choose thumbnail here. We could link the image. So in this case, we'll link it to the content, which means that we're going to link it to the user. We could add styles and treat this just as we treat any other field in our view, and go ahead and apply it to the view. Let's scroll down and take a look at our preview here. And you'll see now that the user picture appears at the bottom of each of these recipe listings. I'm just going to move this picture up to the top under title because that might make more sense in terms of looking at this view. So I'm going to click on this little add listing here and choose rearrange. Now I'm going to move picture up between title and body and go ahead and apply it to all displays. Before I do that, I want you to notice the author is in parentheses here, which tells us that this field is using a relationship and is pulling in data from a different entity from the entity that's actually being looked at. Apply that and save. Now if I scroll down here, our view shows the pictures of the person who created the recipe. We can click on any one of those pictures and it will take us to that user record. In summary, these relationships allow you to pull in data from other entities, ones that might reference or be otherwise related to the entities that you are displaying in your view, and then display that data along with the results in the view itself.